Hi, my name is Zaak Kerstetter, and welcome to another KMG video series where every week we take a look at a different feature in Ableton Live and how we can use it to make some music. And today I want to talk a little bit about slicing drums. And realistically, you can use this technique for slicing any sample, but we're going to use this for in the context of drums. So we're going to take this drum break here. This is our handy amen break. This is the most sampled drum break of all time, part of a classic part of music history. And I want to show you several different techniques for quickly slicing this up to rearrange it and do some fun stuff with it. So the first way to start slicing this up is to right-click on the sample and hit Slice to New Midi Track. The way this is going to work is it's going to analyze your clip and it's going to look for this transient information. So you can see at the start of each one of these drum beats, there's a little gray triangle there. Those are transient markers. It's going to take each one of those and it's going to create a slice for you. So from here to here will be a slice, and from here to here will be a slice, and from here to here will be a slice. And it's going to put all those slices on a drum rack for you. So let's try this out. We're going to hit Slice to New Midi Track. We're going to keep it set as transient. I could choose to slice it on like eighth notes if I wanted to. We're going to keep it on transients and we're going to hit OK. It's going to analyze it and it's going to create an entirely new MIDI track for us. So over here we have a MIDI track, and on this MIDI track we have a drum rack with each one of our slices. So I can play those with my MIDI controller, or I can open up this MIDI clip and we can see here's each one of those MIDI notes separate from each other. So if I hit play, it should sound more or less exactly the same way as it did before. Which means I can go in here and I can start taking these MIDI notes, and if I want to maintain the timing information, I can maintain the time information. I could also start adding in new MIDI notes if I wanted to try playing new notes on top of it and be able to slice it, move it around. So I'm maintaining the sample, but I'm changing timing or I'm changing rhythm, and you can do all kinds of like cool ways to like splice this up. And this is like a really classic old school way of especially making drum and bass, but a lot of electronic music was based off of this technique of taking a sample of a drum beat, making it into its various slices, and then rearranging those slices to create entirely new different kinds of music. So that's option number one for slicing the drum beat. You right click, Slice to New Midi Track, and it creates a drum rack for you with each one of those sounds individually, and I can go in here and I can play each one individually, as well as a MIDI clip containing everything sequentially. So that's what I want to do if I like the sound of the drums, but I want to change the rhythm or I want to change the order. However, say I like the rhythm, but I want to change the sound, so I want to do something a little different. I can right click on this and I can hit Convert Drums to New Midi Track. So what this is going to do, it's going to be different than slicing. When I convert drums, it's going to once again analyze the transient information for timing, but it's also going to take a look at the pitch to try to determine which drum sound it is, and it's going to try to create an entirely new MIDI clip for me that will represent the rhythm of this drum beat. So I'm going to hit Convert, it's going to analyze it, and it's going to give me a new drum track. And whereas our old one looked like this, that was kind of sequential, our new one is going to have MIDI notes that look like this, where it should actually sound the same in terms of rhythm. But it puts a generic drum rack here for you that we can then later replace. So once again, here's our original amen break. And then here's our new drum beat. It's not terrible. It missed, there's like a snare in here somewhere. I think it missed one right here. Probably. Yeah. So it's not perfect. It is relying on the audio quality of the sample you get it. So if there's a lot of different sounds going on with a lot of different samples, it's not gonna be able to magically, automatically recreate that sample perfectly. But in this case, it did a pretty decent job. And like I said, it gives you a generic drum rack on top here, which we can then go in and we can replace with any other drum rack you want. So here's a different drum rack preset. Cool. And then of course I can go in and I can manually change this. Excuse me. So of course I can go in here and manually edit this. I could also say I just want to keep the hi-hats. I could take the hi-hat rhythm and then delete everything else. Lots of ways to customize it. But in this situation, what this allows us to do is be able to maintain the rhythm and the timing of the drums, but replace the samples. In addition, because this is MIDI, we can do some more fun things with timing. So if I take the original drum beat and I change the tempo, say I change the tempo down to 80 BPM, we're gonna hear it gets a little stretchy, you get like a little bit of that warping going on. So changing the timing of our global session will negatively affect our quality of our audio. However, if I've converted it to MIDI, I can play this at any tempo that I want, and I don't have to worry about any of that that stretching or warping going on, which is pretty cool. So that's method number 2, and that's going to be specifically if you like the rhythm of the drums, but you don't like the samples, or you don't like the sounds of the drums. You can convert to new drum rack. It creates an entirely new MIDI track for you, trying to recreate the actual timing of those drums, as well as loading up a preset generic drum rack for you, which you can then of course replace with your own drum sounds. So that's option number 2. Option number 3 is going to be using the simpler device. So if I take my audio clip and I toss it in here, it's going to load up my sample inside Simpler, and now if I play a MIDI note, it plays it, and if I wanted to, I could loop it and all that kind of stuff. But I don't want to just play it as a whole loop, I want to slice it. So luckily, there is the slice mode built into Simpler that will automatically slice it. So this is going to be very similar to the first method we looked at, where it's going to take each transient and automatically slice it for you. And so now if I'm playing this, I can play these individually. Or I can pick out individual hits that I like. I could finger drum with it. I could I could start playing MIDI notes and create my own drum beat and be able to rearrange it, which is really fun to play around with. If you think your transient markers are not in the right place, you can of course rearrange these manually. So I can click and drag and I can move the markers around like that. I can also change the sensitivity. So as I turn this down, it will get rid of things that have smaller volumes to them. So sometimes it might add extra slices where you don't want them. We can adjust the sensitivity to increase and create more slices, or turn it down to create less slices. On top of that, if you don't want it to slice on transients, you can choose to slice it either by beat, so quarter notes, eighth notes, etc. Region, which is just an even number, so we could split up into 15 evenly spaced slices if I want to, or you can of course manually do it. So you can manually put in your own slices if you want to. So like I said, this is going to be very similar to the first method we looked at in terms of chopping and slicing things, but everything's done all inside of this simpler device just by activating slice mode. So yeah, those are all 3 options for slicing drums. They're all pretty easy, they're all pretty straightforward, and will get you a slightly different result depending on what you want to be doing and what your basic workflow is. And as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, this does not just apply to drums. You can use this for any sample that you want. I particularly like using the slice mode on Simpler for vocal samples, and that way you can slice and get like part of a phrase or part of a word, and you can make really cool, interesting combinations and be able to play all of it directly from your MIDI controller. And if you're using the push, the buttons on the push will light up based off of the number of slices that you have inside of your Simpler. So that's basically it. A little bit of technique for slicing things up. Try them all out, see which one you like the best. Sometimes I like to use one method, some days I like to use another method. You don't have to always use the same one. It really kind of is up to you. In live, I found there's a million ways to do everything, so it's all about finding out which technique is best for you, what's going to get you the best result with the least amount of headache. So hopefully that is useful information, and keep an eye out for more videos coming from KMG real soon. Thanks for watching.